But wait, Jared Goff can't win in bad conditions. Oh, Jared Goff in the cold and rain. Shut up.
Your Kansas City Chiefs are chasing immortality while the Buccaneers are coming to Arrowhead trying to find buried treasure.
3 sacks and a big day from Bajan.
Ohio State overpowered Penn State to secure a 20-13 win.
The Locked On Podcast Network presents the Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports.
But wait, Jared Goff can't win in bad conditions. Oh, Jared Goff in the cold and rain. Shut up.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast.
What a game tonight. What a game. We knew the conditions were going to be bad. I said it on Friday. This should be the David Montgomery game. This should be the game where David Montgomery goes off. I've heard it 1,000 times. Jared Goff struggles in outdoor weather. It's cold. It's rainy. Uh-oh, Goff outdoors. First outdoor game of the year. Uh-oh, what happened last year in Chicago? All Jared Goff did today was miss 4 passes. 4. He was 11 for his first 11, ended up 18 out of 22. Had a pass rating of 109.3. His counterpart, the highest paid quarterback in football, the second coming of Brett Favre, the second coming of Aaron Rodgers, the great Jordan Love, pass rating of 69.7. Not nice. Lions win. Goff does his thing. Montgomery runs for 73 yards. Gibbs runs for 65. Penei Sewell on that Jahmyr Gibbs touchdown run, moving the entire line, basically from right to left. My gosh, that was Lions football today. Tough, physical, weather conditions. So what? Well, it's an indoor team playing outside. Shut up. Stop. I don't want to hear it anymore. Lion fans don't want to hear it anymore. This team is legit. They're the best team in the NFC, period. I'm not some homer. I hated the Amon-Ra St. Brown Green Bay Sucks sweatshirt that he wore into the stadium today. I thought it was ridiculous. There was no need for that. But you know what? He wore it, and the Lions backed it up with a win. He wore it, and they backed it up. Amik Robertson talking constantly, trash talk, standing over players, finally got an unsportsmanlike penalty. Amik, you're a good player. Stop it. Cut it out. It's not needed. None of this is needed. No just, I love that the Lions have an edge. Don't get me wrong. St. Brown's got an edge. Amik's got an edge. It's fine. But just go do your business, win the game. And that's exactly what the Lions did today. By the way, that sweatshirt today that Amon-Ra wore today was ridiculous. It didn't even spell Green Bay properly. It's 2 words, Green and Bay. Whoever made that sweatshirt, fix it. Stupid. But regardless, I loved the way they played from the get-go today with running Montgomery, even down 3-0. They're moving, they're driving, they get to 4th down, and you figure, all right, take the points, tie the game. Dan Campbell says, no. First 3 plays, they ran Montgomery. I liked it. I had no issue with it. They just didn't block. But then the 4th down play, what a catch by St. Brown. What a throw by Goff in the rain, wearing gloves. And it's that combination that just you can rely upon. And Amon-Ra is a special, special talent. Jared Goff is showing you why he's an MVP candidate. But St. Brown today, 7 catches, 56 yards, a touchdown. There were 7 targets his way, 7 catches his way. You target him, you throw it to him, he catches it. I think I saw the stat today on Fox, and we're going to get to the Fox broadcast in a second. My God, was that Packers television today? Does Tom Brady do any prep at all? He doesn't know who the players are. Like, come on, man. I know you're a part owner of the Raiders, and I know you can't participate in some of the Zoom calls and stuff, but at least do some prep. Can we get Greg Olson back? But regardless, like, I think I saw a stat on Fox today where the last 30 times Goff has thrown to St. Brown, he's caught it, something like that. It's remarkable. Those were tough conditions today. That was not an easy, it's a slick field. It's raining the whole game. And yet one team could handle it, the Lions. The other team, the home team, Green Bay, couldn't. Packers had a ton of drops. They had 6 or 7 drops. Wicks had a touchdown pass right in his hands. It was behind him a little bit. You still got to make that catch. And the Packers had double-digit penalties, 11 or 12 at my last count. The Lions stayed focused. The Lions weren't holding or grabbing. The Lions weren't jumping off sides. The Lions weren't snapping the ball at the feet of the quarterback. And I get it that Elton Jenkins had to move from guard to center because Josh Myers was hurt. And Green Bay people will tell you, oh, we didn't have Jair Alexander. We didn't have Josh Myers and blah, blah, blah. Well, the Lions don't have Aiden Hutchinson. Have the Lions made any excuses for not having their best defensive player? And then, oh, by the way, Brian Branch made a dumb play. It was a stupid play. The play was over. The ball was incomplete. And Branch went head first, helmet to helmet, to the Packers receiver. It was a bad play. It deserved a 15-yard penalty. But my God, a 4-minute break and then you eject him? Anybody see the Jordan Poyer hit against the Bills today from the Dolphins? What about Chris Olave? Those were not ejection plays. Yet Poyer's was worse than Branch's, and they kicked him out? That was preposterous from Clete Blakeman and the crew, and from the people in New York radioing in saying, eject him. Come on now. It was a bad play by Branch. Don't get me wrong. But ejection, no way. But you know what? The Lions rolled with it. Brandon Joseph played really well in his place. Kirby Joseph stepped up. Jack Campbell was all over the field today. Alex Anzalone, Gaines Media poster boy, did his job. And everybody contributed in what was complimentary football, Dan. I mean, it was just awesome. Awesome. What a win today for the Lions. 3 straight at Lambeau. And these are not bad Packers teams they're beating. 2 years ago, they knocked Green Bay out of the playoffs and ended Aaron Rodgers' career in Green Bay. Last year, that was a good Packer team. I know earlier in the year, they weren't as good as they finished. But look at the record that they ended up with last year. And, of course, Jordan Love won a playoff game in Dallas. Jordan Love he's turning into Brett Favre. He makes some unbelievable throws. He's a very good talent. But he also makes some stupid throws. He's been picked off now 11 times this year. Jared Goff never throws the ball to the other team. Rarely. Lions have been on a heater. They've won 6 in a row since that Tampa loss when Goff threw a couple of picks. Today, 18 out of 22, an efficient 145 yards, 1 touchdown. He was sacked once. Passer rating 109.3. Spreading the ball around, you had St. Brown, Laporta, Montgomery, Khalif Raymond, Tim Patrick, Jahmyr Gibbs. Allen Robinson caught a pass. And Brock Tober all caught passes today from Jared Goff in really lousy conditions. Bottom line is we looked up and said, all right, 4 of the next 5 are going to be tough. At Dallas, at Minnesota, home to Tennessee, at Green Bay, at Houston next Sunday night. So far in this very, very tough stretch where we're going to find out a lot about the Lions, they're 4-0.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. And that winning $5 bet could be Monday Night Football, maybe. The Kansas City Chiefs, big favorites over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tonight. FanDuel likes the Chiefs by 9.5. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Your Kansas City Chiefs are chasing immortality while the Buccaneers are coming to Arrowhead trying to find buried treasure.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
There was an injury update over the weekend. Jared Wiley is out for the season, tore his ACL. He went to IR. They brought Peyton Hendershot up. Also made another practice squad move. We're not going to really worry about that right now. But DeAndre Hopkins is going to be more involved in this offense this week. Peyton Hendershot obviously is going to be another tight end in this offense this week. A couple of new options there, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Ryan, how's it going today?
It's going, and I'm going to ask for everybody's patience and support here. I'm not in as bad shape as Wiley's ACL, but I am not 100%. I'll tell you that. Thanks for taking over the hosting here, Chris. I appreciate you. Hendershot, we did some work up on him preseason. I'm pretty excited about what he could bring to it as a guy that could be a go-to, but I don't think it affects his game plan terribly. It's going to be about Kelsey and Noah Gray at the tight end spot, and whatever else you filter in will take over from there. But it's working in DeAndre and how he and Travis in particular work off of each other. So I do think we will see some adjustment at what the routes are run, especially from the inside slot position when DeAndre's in it, as well as how they choose to push deep to give them some open space for those two guys. I'm looking at Diggs. I'm looking at deep outs a little bit more if I'm the Chiefs staff and having some guys that can take the top off and keep them a little bit cleaner. That's where I'd like to see them go right away.
Yeah, and I'll be curious to see how they go about this because there is a lot of different things that could go into this game. And I understand, and I somewhat agree with you. Wiley is not going to make a big difference, but I do think that Jody Fortson was bringing something else to this roster. He's now gone as well. Obviously, we already knew that. He's been gone for a couple of days, but it is going to change how they're able to use 13 personnel and attack using 13 personnel. So I do think that that could play into maybe a little bit of this game plan because I think that the Chiefs have used 12 and 13 personnel very effectively, and having a guy like Jody Fortson on the field has been something that, has been something that has really helped them. At this point, obviously, Hendershot is a guy that's going to step in, hasn't had a ton of time in the Chiefs offense. I do expect him to play, though, on Monday night.
I would as well. And I think that they can balance that out by getting more balance in the run game, not having to put that much on the 12 personnel. Obviously, we've seen what Kareem Hunt has been able to bring to the run game. Again, a little banged up. Got to say for him a little bit. So I want to see a little bit more of what has worked in the past. McCole Hardman, come on up. I need more output from you. We need to see that you can do that. Juju Smith-Schuster, I don't think, barring a game time decision, is not going to be available. So
he's out.
It's going to be about it. Did they rule him out? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's about taking advantage of what you have, using your tools that are available this week to do that. I do like the Washington elevation. I don't know if they've announced that yet officially, but I would expect it as well. And I would like to see a little bit of some underneath work there for a more speedy guy as well. I do think the tight end situation does shift it back towards the pass game as the first up and the run game as supporting that rather than what we've seen the last few weeks. But you never know. You have to take what the defense gives you. And if that means more Kareem Hunt, I'm perfectly comfortable with it.
I'm comfortable with it. I don't know that I like it. And the reason I'm not sure I like it is because we also got a little bit of an update. Isaiah Pacheco is expected to come back at the end of November. The only reason I bring that up is because they have used Kareem Hunt over and over and over again over the last 3 weeks, and he has got to be feeling it. And while I agree that they need to run the ball, they need to be effective doing it. I think taking a couple of carries off his plate and maybe passing a little bit more, or maybe even just using Pirine or maybe even Clyde's going to be available this week since they don't have 4 tight ends. Maybe Clyde's going to be a guy that can step in and get a couple of carries. I do think that they're going to need to do something a little bit different and take a little bit off Kareem's plate, mainly because you have to get to a point where you can keep Kareem healthy enough to where Pacheco can come back probably that last week of November against the Raiders would be my guess on that Friday game, and you can have a 1-2 punch. If you use him too much, you get away from that, and that hurts this offense. I think that they need to take a little bit off of his plate and maybe get Xavier Worthy involved a little bit more. Take some deep shots early in the game, force them to go back a little bit, and then just stay on the attack the rest of the game.
Yeah, I like that concept, and I purposely left X out of it because I think he is the X factor we'll talk about coming up later. You have to lay your foundational offensive options there, and I do think that while you can't zero in on DeAndre Hopkins to start this particular ball game, I think you got to pay more attention. And it shouldn't be like, oh, all of a sudden we have this new toy and we have to max it out like they've done with Kareem. It should be more gradual than that. But I also don't think that there's this steep learning curve. I think he's proven that he's able to walk in a couple days practice, and his experience level gives him the ability to fit in. So you might as well make use of it. Give a 2 and 3 pronged attack, and then take what they give you.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I like about DeAndre Hopkins is even only being in the offense for 2 or 3 days, you saw Patrick Mahomes trust him on a deep out, trying to get out of bounds for a field goal at the very end of the first half last week. And while that seems like a simple play, it is all about timing. It's all about execution. And it's all about putting the ball on the body of the receiver in the right spot so he can get out of bounds, make the catch, get out of bounds, and stop the clock. That was done to perfection. And if they're on that same kind of page this quickly, that's going to be something that's going to really benefit Kansas City as those two get even more chemistry and are able to work together a little bit more.
3 sacks in a big day from Bajan.
You are Locked On Falcons, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast.
Today, the Atlanta Falcons moved to 6-3 with a 27-21 win over the Dallas Cowboys. The Falcons were, despite being in control of this game for most of the game, the Falcons had to make it very dramatic. We weren't getting flashbacks at the end with the Cowboys potentially recovering an onside that could have allowed them to tie the game. No, that's never happened before. I wasn't sitting here going like, are you serious, Falcons? But it was a great day for the Falcons, a complete win for the Falcons. You saw it in all 3 phases: offense, defense, special teams. You saw critical plays there. Again, not perfect game for the Falcons. As I said, they always got to try to maximize the drama in the fourth quarter. I think they just do it on purpose. But let's talk about, the sort of complete performance from this team by talking about the defense. 3 sacks from Arnold Ebiketie, Grady Jarrett, and Caden Ellis today. 8 quarterback hits today, which basically almost matches their combined total over the last 3 games, which of 9 quarterback hits. So, you look at that per game performance, technically today is like a 400% improvement for the Falcons pass rush from what we've seen over the previous 8 games. And, will that impact their decision to be aggressive at the trade deadline to add to that pass rush? We'll talk about that later in today's episode, but we got to start with Caden Ellis's big day. He was all over the field, looking like the stud that he was last year and a big impact player for that Falcons defense in 2023 and big catalyst for their success. And him playing well, I think, was a big catalyst for the Falcons' success this Sunday, in addition to, the Cowboys shooting themselves in the foot over and over again. But Caden Ellis finished with 13 tackles, a sack, 3 quarterback hits, 2 tackles for loss, has sort of had a huge momentum swinging stop on 4th and 1 early in the second quarter, stopping CeeDee Lamb on a jet sweep. And, I've seen people speculating about Caden Ellis being a cap cut at the end of this year. I don't agree with that sentiment, but I think today was a nice reminder for those folks, that were ready to push Caden Ellis out the door, that this guy is still a valuable playmaker. And of course, it's wild to be looking to move on from Caden Ellis, where, he's, I think, on pace to have his most productive year in his NFL career from a pressure standpoint this season. And for a team that is so desperate for any type of pass rush help, like you can't let, the 25 to 30 pressures that Caden Ellis, I think, is on pace to have this year walk out the door for nothing, just to, save a couple of dollars. But switching gears to the Falcons offense, Bijan Robinson continued to show why he is the most talented player on the roster. 145 yards total scrimmage, 86 on the ground, 59 in the air. You saw a lot of Bijan in terms of the Falcons' early down success, not only with him as a runner and a receiver. You looked it up. He had a 62% success rate on his carries on first down in this game. For those of you not familiar with success rate, as a runner, basically anything above 45% is very good. 62% is basically elite. 75% success rate as a receiver when targeted on first down, 117 combined yards, rushing and receiving on 17 first down touches. And we knew going into this game that the Falcons would have a favorable matchup with Bijan Robinson against these struggling Cowboys linebackers and safeties in coverage against one of the worst run defenses in the NFL on the ground. So you saw that come to fruition. And talking about the early down struggles, we'll talk later in the episode about the Falcons' third down struggles, in part due to, or solely due to, Drake London's absence in this game. But you did see Darnell Mooney step up in a major way with 2 fourth down conversions to sort of help pick up some of that slack. The second one was a huge one, obviously, with a 36-yard walk-in touchdown on a pick route, a great play call by Zach Robinson, great read, great vision from Kirk Cousins on that play, seeing the blitz coming, and the Falcons dialed up the perfect play to beat it with Mooney sort of just waltzing into the end zone. If only we could have got a true Deion Sanders high step from Darnell Mooney, it would have been incredible, and I would have been able to take back every negative thing I've said about Darnell Mooney for all of eternity if we had gotten that Deion high step on that particular play. But again, still Darnell Mooney leaving me disappointed. No, I'm kidding, guys. No, but speaking of great reads from Kirk Cousins, we saw an excellent start to the month of Kirkvember, right? Kirktober was great. Kirk has historically been even better, more efficient quarterback in Kirkvember, and he got off to a great start today against the Cowboys, looking poised, looking decisive, as illustrated on that 4th down touchdown to Darnell Mooney. And we questioned, right? We went into this game questioning, okay, we've seen Kirk carve up the Bucs twice. We haven't seen Kirk carve up really anybody else this year. So can we expect, the version of Kirk Cousins that plays against the Tampa Bay Bucs for the rest of the season? And today, at least today, we'll find out. We still got 8 more games left to play this year, but at least today, the answer was yes, right? And again, there's still going to be more challenges to come, better defenses than what Dallas's defense, presents later in the season. But hey, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And you saw a continuation of Kirk Cousins' command and comfort in this offense this Sunday. Very efficient, 19 of 24 passing for 222 yards and 3 touchdowns. And you love to see Kirk Cousins' mobility. For the first 8 weeks of the season or 7 weeks of the season, it was a 0 out of 10, right? And the last 2 weeks, it's been like a 2 out of 10. And man, that's an incredible achievement for Kirk Cousins at this point. You saw the big run last week at the end of the Bucs game, a critical sort of 13-yard run on a 2nd and 14 to sort of help the Falcons extend a late game drive. And you saw the sort of more subtle pocket movement today, right? No big scrambles or anything like that, especially on that 29-yard pass to Bijan Robinson at the start of the 4th quarter. There were bodies around Kirk's legs. You saw the subtle movement in the pocket to avoid those bodies. Hit Bijan. Bijan made a great adjustment on his route, beating Eric Kendricks, again, getting that sort of mismatch on those Cowboys linebackers. And that big play right there, was able to set up the final score of this game, which wound up being a Tyler Algier rushing touchdown from, I believe, 6 yards out. And shout out to the offensive line for clearing the way for Algier to finish off that drive. Caleb McGarry, Charlie Warner had some big blocks on that touchdown run. You saw the pile move, and it's nice to see Caleb McGarry bounce back after a couple of rough weeks in pass protection, getting back to being that sort of enforcer in the run game that we know Caleb McGarry is. But, that all said, let's talk about the Kirk Cousins chaos meter, something that we talk about each and every week on these rapid reactions immediately after the game, something I inherited from Locked On Vikings host Luke Braun. We talk about the chaos meters. There's 5 different levels of chaos when it comes to Kirk Cousins. Level 1 is the least chaotic, right? This is when Kirk is super conservative, too conservative for his own good. Level 2 is this sort of classic Kirk Cousins effectively managing the game. Level 3 is what we want, which is peak Kirk Cousins, where you get that effective game management, just a little bit of chaos just to get Kirk to that next level and peak version of Kirk. Then level 4 is when the chaos is too much. It takes over. We've seen a couple of games like that from Kirk. And then level 5 is something that I've added, borrowing from Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings, which is Kirk. There's a chaos to a level where we need to start talking about Michael Penix taking over at the quarterback position. And fortunately, we have not had any level 5 games at this point. And hopefully we will not see any level 5 games for the rest of eternity. But today we got a level 3 game. And I think we barely got a level 3 game because to me, Kirk played well. This was one of his better games of the season, but it wasn't that chaotic. But we got a little bit of Kirk Cousins chaos because, it's just not, hey, the chaos meter isn't just, hey, Kirk played well. It's an automatic peak level 3 Kirk Cousins game, right? No, you got to get that chaos. We got a little bit of chaos. So I'm going to go like a 3.1. This was more of a game manager, Kirk doing an excellent job managing the game, but we got a couple of chaotic moments. We got a sack strip fumble. We got another play that almost was a sack strip fumble. So that's enough for me to bump it into level 3, that 3.1 type of thing. We didn't get any sort of crazy, oh no, Kirk, what are you doing type of chaotic moments that we have seen, time and time again in the first 2 months of the season. But again, I gained a peak Kirk Cousins just barely across it. Like it pushed it from a 2.9 to a 3.1 with a couple of those chaotic moments in that. So a great day for Kirk, great day for the offense, great day for the defense. Special teams, you got another big stop on a fake punt in this game, even though the rest of special teams in terms of coverage and whatnot wasn't perfect in this game, but overall, a complete performance from the Falcons. Their most complete performance of the season. Not the best game offensively, probably not the best game defensively we've seen from this team, and probably not the best game special teams, but in terms of all three of those phases, looking, having some of their better days, and all of those coming on the same day, which we haven't seen. Usually it's the defense looks really great and the offense looks terrible, like we saw earlier this season against the Saints, or what has been more consistently the case this year. The offense looks great and the defense looks but we got to see good versions or great versions of all both the offense and defense this week. So a complete performance for the Falcons.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. And that winning $5 bet could be Monday Night Football, maybe. The Kansas City Chiefs, big favorites over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tonight. FanDuel likes the Chiefs by 9.5. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Ohio State overpowered Penn State to secure a 20-13 win.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That's one thing that we've been talking about for a long period of time is the defense. We know what we think the defense should be able to be down the road. We know we think the defense with the players, when they all play their best, what we think they can be. Well, what we got today is a glimpse into that. Even with Tyleik Williams going down late in the game, we got a goal line stand with some guys off the bench and Hero Canoe and Cade McDonald making big plays, along with Lathan Rance, with Cody Simon, and Caleb Downs as well. Like, everybody got into the mix in the final defensive play of the game for the Buckeyes. But even on offense, being able to grind out, starting on the one, literally your back's up against the wall, and you grind out on the ground and just move, tick, 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 churn the thing. Keep going and keep going. And this is a great sign. Oh, did I add that Ohio State had a first-time starting left guard this year in its Buckeye career in Carson Hinzman? Yeah, we all knew that Mikulski was probably not going to play. He didn't play. You moved Donovan Jackson from left guard to left tackle. You have a new starter in Carson Hinzman who has barely played this year after starting 12 games at center a year ago. And what does he do? He makes that left side of the offensive line be somewhat of a strength for the Buckeyes down later in the game, where they can run behind them. They're moving guys, they're pushing guys, even getting Donovan Jackson after the game. Late in the fourth quarter on that final offensive drive, where he's kind of hyped up and he's shaking his head like, yeah, as he should as an offensive lineman, because there were issues earlier. There were even issues in the second half, but Ohio State being able to overpower Penn State, that was not something we thought we would see right now. That's a huge step in the right direction. It's a long season. The Buckeyes have a few more games left. They still have a shot to go to Indianapolis to play in the Big Ten championship game. But this is where you got to be. If Ohio State lost this game, their chances of being able to having a chance to play in the Big Ten championship, they're basically out the window. 10-2 for the first time in Ryan Day's career, potentially. Not even saying that, but having 2 regular season losses, that's not where you want to be. You have guys like Will Howard. You have guys like Caleb Downs that transferred in, Seth McLaughlin. What do? They transferred to win. Yeah, you may have a loss here or there, but that doesn't mean you can't win. They also transferred to win on the big stage. It was a record attendance in Beaver Stadium today. Over 111,000 people that were cheering loud. It wasn't the whiteout. They did the whole helmet stripe thing that I saw on Twitter, where it was white all the way around. Then they had the helmet stripe right down the center on both sides of the field at the 50-yard line. Cool. I mean, like, I get what you're trying to do. You could have just had a daytime whiteout. Like, I would have been cool with that. I'm also cool with what we're seeing from Ohio State right now. And Ryan Day and Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles, they're making tweaks. They're adjusting things. And they're making sure that everything Ohio State needs to do in this game to win, they're doing. Now, yeah, you're gonna have a bigger test. I say bigger. Indiana's good. It may be a better team than Penn State when Ohio State meets Indiana down the road. You're going to have to keep making these kinds of adjustments. You're going to have Michigan, who's currently playing right now while we're recording. I don't even know if there's a score in the game yet, but I do know this. Michigan has a psychological advantage. I don't think they have a talent advantage. I don't even want to say they have a physicality advantage. There's a psychological advantage. But the way to overcome the psychological advantage is doing things right now like we got today. Will Howard making plays? Yeah, he had a bad throw. We're going to talk about that later in the show, a bad throw early on, which resulted in a pick six. But he didn't let that get him down. He didn't let that mess him up. Saw the run game get back to where you want it to be. By the numbers, I haven't really looked at these lately. Quinshon Judkins, 14 for 95, average 6.8 yards a pop. Henderson, who did not start this game for the first time all year, 10 carries, 54 yards, 5.4 yards a pop. You saw Will Howard have over 10 rushing attempts for the first time this year. Also had a couple carries from Emeka Ibuka. So they're trying different things out, doing a little bit of different things. Also, Will Howard had less than 200 passing yards, and I'm not complaining. Like, I don't care if he has 182 or if he has 382. I don't care. All I want is a win. And the formula that Ohio State went in there with, offensively, with the mindset, figure out what works on the ground, and then make that thing shake defensively, they didn't give up a touchdown. Yeah, I know I know what you see, and it's 20-13. That one score that Penn State had, that was within the first, that was at the 5:37 mark of the first quarter. Outside of that, Penn State had a field goal, a 29-yard field goal at the 6:54 mark of the first quarter. Then they had another field goal at the 5:03 mark of the third quarter. Outside of that, Ohio State's defense didn't give up a touchdown. And now, if you were to talk to me and ask me a question early in the week, or even the day of the game, morning of the game, and you were asking me, would I expect Ohio State's defense to shut out the Penn State's offense? I would have said no. I would have assumed either Tyler Warren, who got really close, or Drew Aller or Bo Perbula. Those are the three guys I'd be looking at to saying, I think one of these guys will score. I would have said if it were Aller scoring, it would have been through the air to Warren. If it was Bo Perbula scoring, it would have been with his legs. And if for Tyler Warren scoring, you saw how they used him today. So it would have been either a run or a pass. I probably would not have picked which one, but I would have guessed that one of those three guys would have scored. They didn't. So you're finding Ohio State's defense rising to the occasion, being able to literally overpower Penn State's offensive line. And we know in every game, we talk about it, Urban Meyer's probably the biggest guy that's going to thump every single day. When you win big games, what do you have to do? You have to win the battle on the ground. If you don't win the battle in the trenches, you're not going to win the game. You may win the game, but it's going to be very, very hard. What we found today was Ohio State's defense. My gosh. As much as we heard about Kaytron Allen and Nicholas Singleton, and we know how good they are, buddy, they couldn't make anything shake. Kaytron Allen had 27 rushing yards on 12 carries. Nick Singleton, 6 rushes for 15 carries. The leading rusher for Penn State was their tight end. 3 attempts, 47 yards, 15.7 yards a pop. That was one run of 33 yards that got him down to the 3-yard line in the fourth quarter, which resulted in an Ohio State goal line stand, the one we'll be talking about for a very, very, very long time. Their second leading rusher was Drew Aller on a bad knee. So, yeah, Penn State had 120 rushing yards. They still didn't average over 4 yards a carry. They didn't have more rushing yards than Ohio State. And these are things that just show and confirm that Ohio State's defense did some great things on the road. And if they build upon those great things they did today in Happy Valley, we're going to be talking about this defense tomorrow, the next day, over the next few weeks, leading into that game against Indiana, leading into that game against Michigan, and have a lot more confidence about what the defense might do in those bigger games against teams that, well, one team will be ranked. Michigan won't be ranked, but Michigan has a psychological advantage, and we'll have a bigger belief to say, I think Ohio State's going to win this game behind their defense, and here is why. We'll have more data to kind of back that up.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. And that winning $5 bet could be Monday Night Football, maybe. The Kansas City Chiefs, big favorites over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tonight. FanDuel likes the Chiefs by 9.5. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Domination in Williams-Brice Stadium, where dreams go to die for top 10 teams in the month of November. You heard it all week. This team, I am so fired up. What a damn win. We are here live reaction show. My God. Finally got the statement win. I want to hear all of your comments and your takeaways from the game, your thoughts going into it, thoughts after that. What a win. What a win. And again, 44-20. The game just went final about 5-10 minutes ago. The celebration of Williams-Brice obviously is not going to stop anytime soon. The celebration in Columbia, in the Vista, in 5 Points, all the above, that's not going to stop anytime soon. And here's the thing. We deserve to. What a damn night for Shane Beamer and for South Carolina and for Dowell Loggins and Lenore Sellers. When people like me have said, and they doubted Dowell Loggins, especially Dowell Loggins, all year. I was worried about this game because I kept looking at it and thinking, man, there's such a clear path for South Carolina to win this game. Just a clear path. Like, they're a good enough team to beat them. You've seen it multiple times this season. And the thing I kept going back to was like, oh man, can Lenoris like be protected long enough by that offensive line? Can Lenoris also not make any sort of like backbreaking mistakes or bad moments with the lacking of situational awareness? I said this a couple of weeks ago, man. I said this a couple of weeks ago after the Bama game, but we were watching that kid turn a corner and grow up like in front of us. Here's the thing. The first 6 games of a starter, right? Like of his like starting career, he had some ups and downs and he had to learn and go through growing pains and he made some bad mistakes. Did you see Lenore Sellers in the pocket tonight? Like stepping up in the pocket, evading the rush, avoiding tackles. Like, my God, like no sacks allowed. What? What? Like, it was so fun. And here's the thing that was the best part. Here's the thing that's the best part. And listen, we're going to get into the full game. I'm so fired up. There is not going to be any line of symmetry and like organization to this show. This is just a live reaction. I'm fired up. And the game just ended. And it is just going to be off the cuff and from the hip. And it is, I've said this over and over. I said it during the Oklahoma game. I said the next step, the next iteration for this program and for this team and coaching staff and the players, and everyone involved with South Carolina football in the year of 2024. The next step was when you get up on someone, you have to figure out a way to keep them down. I say it all the time. People think it's way too aggressive, but you put your foot on someone's throat and you don't let up. You push down, choke them out and win the game. And South Carolina has not had that kind of killer instinct at times under Shane Beamer. You've seen it rear its ugly head multiple times here. Man, South Carolina went up 14-0, then it was like 17-6, and next thing you know, it's 20-17. Final score 44-20. They buried A&M, buried them. I mean, oh my God. Just what a game. Because here's the thing. This is my favorite part of looking at this now is like all these A&M fans already. Well, I just knew A&M was going to pull an A&M. This is what they always do. Here's the thing. You got your ass kicked. You went into Williams-Brice with a ton of confidence, the entire country patting you on the back and telling you how great you were for a full week. And you know why they did? Let's just get all the cards on the table. Do you know why they did that? They did that because you were on a nationally televised game against LSU, who's a top 10 team and a national brand. and you had a huge come from behind victory. Well, you had that win because LSU gave you the ball 3 times in the second half inside of like their own 20 or 30-yard line. That's why they handed you on a silver platter. It was gift wrap for you. And then you walked into Williams-Brice Stadium. SEC Mike. I'm sure he did. Listen, Hunter, it took me a second to read this. Hunter Britton says, SEC Mike put A&M at number 3 in his power rankings. It took me a second to read that because I didn't know I genuinely didn't know if you meant right now. So back to the game. A&M, you came in with so much confidence because you beat an LSU team that, as South Carolina knows, is very beatable. Very beatable. This team comes in, and all the things that we were genuinely and validated in with our concerns, but genuinely concerned about, man, let's get into the numbers. It was a mauling. It was a mauling, folks. Here's the final stat line. Okay, we're just going to start with the team stats. 530 yards of offense. 530 yards of offense. 44 points. 286 yards rushing. I'll say that again. 286 yards rushing against a team who came into this game, drum roll please, with, I think it was they came into this game with one of the best defensive fronts and one of the best front fours in the country. They held LSU to 0 yards rushing on 12 carries in the second half of that game. And Shane Beamer and Dow Loggins went into the bye week and said, here's how we're going to attack A&M. Here's what we're going to do. And I said this after they beat Oklahoma. I said, like, there's a path to the playoff. We don't need to get to the playoff thing right now. But can they win out? Yes. Let's just keep at it. Let's just keep putting more cherries on top, guys. Clemson lost. like we've been sitting here, like, and we're I think conditioned as South Carolina fans to be like, oh man, it's just waiting for the shoe to drop, just waiting for the trauma to start coming around like it always does, waiting for the shoe to drop. Clemson and A&M were the 2 hardest teams on the rest of this schedule. Vandy's pretty good, but the two best teams left in the schedule. And you look at the fact that Clemson just lost off a bye week. It's the first time in 15 years that Dabo has lost on a bye week, and they were at home to Louisville. I mean, everything that this team just did, that is a complete team win. You didn't have a sack until the fourth quarter. You get 2 in a row. In a situation where A&M was like driving, has to be in 4-down territory, and you get a sack on 2nd and 6, you get a sack on 3rd and 12, and boom, they got a punt. I mean, dude, you cannot say enough about how good of a job Shane Beamer and everybody inside those 4 walls and on that practice field, how good of a job they did for 2 weeks for prepping for the game plan that went in specifically to this. And by the way, I hope that everyone now outside of Columbia, South Carolina realizes this is a damn good football team. They got 3 losses, sure. This team tonight, I keep saying this, you are watching them grow up in front of your own eyes in real time. You're watching them grow in real time. So there's growing pains, of course, at the start of the season. But my God, you guys had a program defining, a program changing, a trajectory changing win. It's that one. It's not the Tennessee one from a couple years ago. It's that one. I mean, I tweeted this out when it was I think it was 27-20. And I just said, now go take their will. Now go take their will. And they did. That part was so new to South Carolina. Guys, they came out, they were running over people. They made them quit. They made Texas A&M quit. That's a very proud, a very physical, and a very good defense. They were running through them at the end of the game. Oh my God. Guys, 3 penalties for 25 yards. You won the turnover battle. 0 sacks allowed. I mean, I would love to know how many negative plays that we had tonight. It couldn't have been more than 5. Like, it. Oh my God. Yeah, that is a down point there, Tim Norris. That sucked. I didn't like that at all. Man. All right, let's get y'all's thoughts on this, because I am so fired up. It's been a long day. It's the girlfriend's birthday. We had a fantastic afternoon and obviously a great night here. Let me gather myself for a second. We'll read some of y'all's comments, and then we'll get into some of how the game played out, because there's some good stuff. They're showing right now on SC Network, and I mean, the play design again from Dowell Loggins. Listen, maybe Dowell Loggins, like, I will already tell you right now I was wrong about what I said, because I was pissed at the Ole Miss game. Maybe Dowell Loggins and Clayton White are the same person and same trajectory professionally, just at different times of being hired. I mean, like, people wanted Clayton White gone, even at times like heading into this offseason. It's one of the best defenses in the country and has been one of the best and most opportunistic defenses in the SEC since he's been there. Love Clayton White. Like, Dowell Loggins, I mean, maybe that Ole Miss thing was a huge wake-up call. I don't know. But you have started to see over the last several games the play design that he is coming up with, especially in key moments, is really, really impressive. I mean, like, that second touchdown tonight to Simon, I mean, that was, oh my God. Whew, are the goalposts still up? Too big. Let's talk about that. D-Fresh for 843 says 2 big 4th down stops. Split that man in half coming in the hole. Split that running back in half. Like, 4th and 1, they ran right up the gut. Listen, there's a quote, and I didn't bring this up this week because I was worried that it was going to come back to bite us. There was a quote from the left tackle of A&M last week going to LSU, and he made a comment about how he's like, they think that, they're going to be able to come and stop us, and they're going to be able to, we're not going to be able to run the ball, which we are, and we're going to run down their throats. And they did against LSU. This is an LSU. Okay? It's also not Kyle Field. Like, you had to put on your big boy pants to go play somebody today. And you saw, like, from just every single player, like, if Nick Harbor wasn't getting held like a damn newborn baby all night like at the top of his routes, it might have been even better. And he might have been more involved. But how about this from an underrated point and celebrate from the coaching staff? How about Nick Harbor, who could be a future Olympic track star? How about getting him so bought into this program that you had him blocking his ass off tonight? Like, Debo shut the inside run down all night. Like, all night. Oh my God. Just a complete Eamon Warrior. I told you he's going to come down and play in the box. Incredible. Just so fundamentally sound all night. You took the right angles. You didn't miss tackles. And then you saw A&M do all of the things that have plagued the South Carolina team that we've been so frustrated about. The bad snaps, the bad plays in the pocket, the lack of situational awareness, the missed tackles, arm tackles, bad turnovers. Like, that happened to someone else for a change. Oh my God. Cox probably should have. Okay, well, Lenore's played fearless and confident. Even though he didn't hit a couple throws, he kept the defense on their heels. Exactly, Tony. Exactly. How about this for fun? How about the fact that Lenore Sellers and Dowell Loggins on the first play of the game dialed up a play action deep ball? How about Rocket Sanders? Like, guys, let's be objective and fair here. That dude was not himself, I think, at the start of the year, including LSU. I know he had a long touchdown or 2 long touchdown runs against LSU. I didn't think he looked like himself. That speed, his ability to get to the corner at that size, especially. I mean, dude, it was like listening to Connor. Shaw, Marcus Lattimore games during the Steve Spurrier days. I'm hoping this will be the right dude. It's just the offensive line grew up. The defense. I mean, I don't even know what the bet. Like, there's so many amazing things that happened in that game. So many like really like foundational strengths that you saw, like that are starting to be repeatable things from this team and with Shane Beamer. I was so worried that this was going to be a repeat of Ole Miss, man. I was so worried there was going to be something, and I just kept thinking, like, just don't. I said it on radio multiple times. I was like, please don't let these fans down. Just like, I just don't. I'm so tired of having to see the disappointment. I've only been doing this job for 4 months. I mean, I've lived in Columbia for a long time, and oh my God, and for a brief moment, we all held our collective breath, and they went down 20-17, and they outscored them 27-0 to close the game. Man, that was just what a damn game. What a damn game. Thank you for joining us. If you I should have done all this at the top. We're obviously 15 minutes in. It's a live show. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to Locked On. We had our best month ever last month again, which is like, just can't say thank you guys enough. This has been so much fun to like talk about the hometown team and cover this team, especially this year. And now we get basketball, so it's only going to get better. And now this team is rolling. And, you know, I tell you what, man, it's really special to watch all this unfold. It really is special because listen, there's times when you're watching a program turn or change or whatever, and it's really special to see the baby steps that a program makes and a head coach makes, and learning and all that stuff you have to go through. And man, it's so cool that you're now in a situation. Think about this, guys. You're in a situation now that you had like the LSU game and the Bama game. You could have in a similar but parallel universe, you could have been in a situation where at the end of the year, you might have thought to yourself, if we just would have won that, we would have gone to a bowl game. That's what people thought about this team going into the season. That's what the national media thought of this team. Oh yeah, probably 4 wins tops, 5 wins maybe. That's the ceiling. And at the end of this year, no matter what happens, like, you are going to actually look at somebody with a serious face and say, you know, if it wasn't for those refs in that LSU game, this might have been a playoff team.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. And that winning $5 bet could be Monday Night Football, maybe. The Kansas City Chiefs, big favorites over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tonight. FanDuel likes the Chiefs by 9.5. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Should be a great environment from Jones Stadium as the Red Raiders prepare to host the Buffaloes of Colorado. And by virtue of your big win on Saturday over Iowa State, obviously we know some things are now in place as it relates to a bowl game, as you punch your ticket and you get eligible there. But wanted to pick your brain a little bit today about what still will be a rocky path to this, but possibly some opportunities restored to make things a little bit more interesting as far as the conference race is concerned. You obviously knock one team from the category of unbeatens in Iowa State, still one remaining in BYU. But am I dreaming a little bit too big of a dream to think that there is a thing or two back on the table that makes it a little more interesting in the Big 12 Conference? What do you think about that part of the conversation, as you hadn't tapped out just yet going into the weekend, but man, a lot of things are going to happen and still do. But maybe there's a little bit more of a likelihood, depending upon what happens this week with the Buffaloes and some things beyond that. I don't know. Texas Tech could actually get back into that interesting November that we were clamoring for, right?
Yeah, and you say turn the page and all that. I'd kind of like to just read this book again from last weekend. It's because I mean I will be honest with you. I've watched the Seinfeld hot tub episode about 1 million times when Elaine invented the Himalayan walking shoe, and Kramer he like did the mental clock, and the marathon runner was late and all that stuff. I mean I can't get enough. So I'd replay the Iowa State, loss, or the, I guess for them, but in the Texas Tech win over and over again if we could. But what it did, Cowan, though, because of that, and I think because of Houston pulling off quite the upset, it does make this weekend's game relevant in the conference race. And this is why I said to you way back when we started this little stretch here, it was all about this 3-game stretch, and there was some back-to-back road trips there. There was this home game versus Baylor you had. And it's like, okay, if you win 2 of 3, you've really put yourself up. But the one that is going to move the needle the most is the Iowa State game, because of where they are in the standings, where they are in the rankings, and all that stuff. Because you can't get to where you ultimately want to go unless some other teams, come back to the pack, or you beat them head to head and have the tiebreaker and all that stuff. And then lo and behold, you lose the 2 that on paper would have been the easier ones, or the ones to manage. You go pull off the hardest one. I mean, as my man Cowan would say, typical Tech, right?
The sunny side of typical Tech. Yeah.
That.
We like this side.
Because you get this done in Ames, you set yourself up for a relevant game. Now, and I would say not quite the same, but it's pretty close in that if you want to get to where you want to go and have a shot at Arlington, like a win over Colorado, because we're talking head-to-head victories and we're talking tiebreakers, and we're also talking about gives them another loss because they are ahead of you in the standings, that this is what I say they're ahead in the standings. Actually, I think that, they've got you've got one more conference loss than they do, so you need to give them their second.
Yeah, I probably should have said this already, but just for those who are not looking at a standing sheet, BYU 5-0, Iowa State, Colorado both 4-1, and then Tech and K-State both 4-2 as far as league play goes.
Yeah, so you need BYU. I mean, if BYU wins another game or two, like they may kind of put one spot out of reach. And everybody may be playing for the second spot for a trip to Arlington. But my point is, you now have a game that is sold out. It's been sold out because of all the your excitement about your program, about the curiosity about Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter and all of the Buffs have got going on. Well, they're better than everybody would have thought. You because of your winning Ames now created a situation where this game is very meaningful, and because like a result like Kansas State going to Houston, and I know we want to always crown Chris Kleiman and Avery Johnson, and everybody wants to crown them, and like Dennis Green's like, you want to crown their ass, crown them, but that whole deal, but yeah. Maybe get the sizing on the crown fit for some other folks too, because Kansas State, this was a bad loss.
Oh, that was a bizarre loss, man. I mean, just
and you knew Willie Fritz in Houston. Willie Fritz is a really good coach, and they were going to play spoiler. You look up now; they're 4-5.
I know. Are they figuring something out?
Well, and they could do this to some other folks down the stretch too. My point is that if you get it done this weekend, don't just act like you're going to need just too much help from elsewhere, because this thing's getting wild every week. But you need to use the previous 2 weeks prior to the Iowa State game as motivation and get some things figured out and see if you can't. You got to manage a bye week situation, and you got to manage maybe trying to cover one of the best wideouts in the country and one of the best quarterbacks in the country throwing to him that can just extend a play for 25 seconds. So that'll be fun over the weekend. So if you have any hair, you may pull it all. I'll pull some of it out this weekend trying to defend these guys.
There'll be some of that, I have no doubt.
It's just, that's just what they are.
Yeah.
And it's going to be frustrating. So, but it's meaningful, and that's what. Not that you got here in the way that we wanted necessarily, but again, we kind of talked about that. You want to play meaningful games in November. Well, here you are.
Don't you mean Jovember? We're back to Jovember. The spirit of Jovember is alive.
I love it. Yes.
It's like nobody was even believing in old St. Joe and Jovember just a week or two ago. But here we are. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because who knows what's to come in the Big 12 Conference. And BYU, who's in the Catbird seat right now, has a rivalry game coming up this weekend with the Utes, who have been obviously disappointing. But I don't know. You throw some things out as far as a game like that is concerned, you might. And I still think it's really interesting to look at the other two not named Colorado that are most interesting, that being Iowa State and K-State. They've still got to crack at one another, obviously, at the end of the season. But
which guarantees somebody in that little duo gets their third loss.
Somebody's going to take something. So, and it's not like, and we talked about this with Iowa State going into the week. If they were to get past Texas Tech, I mean, it's not a gauntlet of Big 12 opponents they have left to run, with all due respect to K-State at the very end. But you got Kansas on the road, Utah on the road. Iowa State will get Cincinnati and Ames between those two road contests before they host the Purple Wildcats for the Farmageddon matchup. But some interesting things could happen. But really, I mean, Texas Tech to continue to make November interesting, Chris, obviously you got to be able to find a way to pull off what would be a slight upset at home. I think I saw the Red Raiders on FanDuel opening up. It's about a 3.5-point underdog as Colorado comes to town. But you've gotten here and have restored some interest to the month via this huge win on the road over the Cyclones of Iowa State.